let me get this thing out of the way. Another thing that I've been so upset about. Whenever I'm talking about relationships, harmful shit, narcissistic abuse, toxicity, all that bullshit, just so you know, I'm never talking about my husband. Ever. So you can stop expressing or feigning concern. Again, for somebody on the internet that you don't know. But this does open up an interesting conversation that I think needs to be had more often. And I think I've had it sometime in the past few years or something via a rant. Like, first of all, I'm not one of those corny motherfuckers on social media, TikTok, YouTube, whatever be it, that is gonna keep you updated all the time to the status of my marriage and how it's fucking going. I hate those people. I think it's fucking weird. I think that it's fucking intrusive as fuck. I value my privacy, even though I'm a social media person, and that means being exposed all the time, but I'm not one of those motherfuckers. I mean, like, guess what? I'm not gonna fucking do that, and I don't like the people that do. Okay, actually, my dating life has been quite non-traumatic, but no, everything. Whenever I write a song, almost every time I write a song, give a talk, give a rant or something, and another thing video about it, I'm talking about platonic relationships. And we need to talk more about how the only relationships that we've been socialized to give a shit about are romantic relationships. Like, especially women, we've been told that the one relationship that matters in our life is being able to find a spouse. Of being able to find the spouse. That's the only thing that matters. And nobody talks about the weight that platonic relationships hold on us. We were not prepared to deal with that shit. Some of the people that have traumatized me the most in the past few years have been just platonic friends. A platonic relationship is a relationship nonetheless, with dynamics and shit and power imbalances and whatnot sometimes that romantic relationships do. Romantic relationships are not the only ones that matter. As a matter of fact, because we were never taught how to deal with platonic relationships, or we were never taught to, basically see it as a relationship, I don't think a lot of us were really prepared to deal with the fact that some platonic relationships can be just as impactful. Like, platonic relationships in general can be just as impactful as romantic relationships. Platonic breakups can be just as impactful as romantic relationships. You can be abused in a platonic relationship. You can be manipulated. You can be misused. You can suffer trauma from a platonic relationship. And this fixation on romantic relationships, and and like finding a partner in that capacity, or having relationships in that capacity, that's one thing I think that has been forgotten, dangerously fucking forgotten. Because they are important. And you're likely to have more platonic relationships. A lot of us are likely to have more platonic relationships at one time than a romantic relationship. And there's a lot of different directions that you can be impacted by a platonic relationship. Okay? Like, I allowed a lot of unhealthy platonic relationships to keep on going around me, and it impacted me so much because partly being a recovering codependent, but partly because nobody really prepared us to really take platonic relationships that seriously. They just seemed more passive, more like than romantic relationships. We didn't take it seriously. And I wish I fucking had. Because some of those relationships are some of the ones that have sent me into the most distress, that I've had to recover from. Things that I'm currently recovering from have had nothing to do with my romantic life. Thank goodness. But platonic connections. We don't talk about that enough. I don't think. And it is very, very important. It's something that maybe, since, like, instead of socializing girls from an early age to want to get fucking married when they don't even know, like, they can barely read a book through, like, maybe teaching about the importance of platonic relationships and the kind of people that you keep in your tribe and that you keep in your circle can be just as important. Okay? So, food for fucking thought. Please stop asking about my marriage and how we're doing. It's an intrusive question. And again, this is a rant. I know this is not going to solve anything. You are internet people, and you're going to do whatever the fuck you want to do. I am not naive to think that I can control any of you motherfuckers, especially on YouTube. This is the wild, wild fucking West. I have given up. But it is something that bugs me. And partly because it is an intrusive question, and then the other part because, like, why are romantic relationships the only ones that matter? Why are they the only ones that we can that we can think of associated with heartbreak? You know, why is that? That's a life skill that was over fucking looked. Like that is something that our parents' generation really, and probably every generation beforehand, that's something that they really dropped the ball on, and that's why I talk about them. That's why I talk about it. I think it's really interesting, right? That whenever you're talking about a relationship, or whatever, and harmfulness and something, people's minds will always go to romantic. They'll always go to your marriage, never even considering that it's a relationship with your parents, with your siblings, a relationship with a platonic friend. They'll never think about that. A romantic relationship is not the only place where abuse and mistreatment and trauma can come from. Some of you might be going through it right fucking now. And you might be going through it and maybe you don't even fucking see it because, again, the only relationships that we have been socialized to give a fuck about are romantic relationships. And shit is being done to you right fucking in front of you. Take a look. You might be fucking missing something because they literally can be just as fucking damaging. So, number one, think about that. Number two, stop asking about my fucking marriage. Like, mm-mm.